It wasn't just that she deflected, it was how she deflected that made it so embarrassing for her. In fact, at times, Bondi was so obnoxious and so disruptive that she had to be repeatedly, if gently, blocked by Jim Jordan from shouting over her questioners. And that is how it was covered. And when Jim Jordan is the voice of reason, you kind of know things are going off the rails. Listen, I've prepped a lot of people for these hearings. As I was just saying to Chris, I have watched hundreds of them. And this one is, well, pretty easy to analyze. Because over the course of those 5 hours, Attorney General Pam Bondi made an absolute fool of herself, evading questions, childlessly shouting down lawmakers, talking back, and even resorting to name-calling, all while attempting some of the most ridiculous and poorly executed diversions I have ever seen. But why just read you the reviews? I just wanted to start there when I can take you to the actual show. DOJ isn't collaborating with local law enforcement to investigate the death of American citizens. That was in the question. It's an important thing to ask. And Pam Bondi's response is, Donald Trump is the greatest president in American history. And did I mention the Dow, which remains perhaps one of the most absurd moments of the hearing? It's like she was kind of a social media bot of sorts, replying with random non sequiturs and AI-generated images of Donald Trump with a six-pack, or the verbal version of that. Can you imagine Merrick Garland answering a question like that? Hell, I mean, can you imagine Bill Barr answering a question like that? And the thing is, it kept going like that over and over and over. Every time she was asked a serious question about something within her job description, she evaded, either by attacking the questioner or by really over the top glorifying her boss.
Donald Trump attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. I want to know, were there any underage girls at that party or at any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein?
This is so ridiculous, and that they are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done.
Okay, to state the obvious, but we got to restate it sometimes. The question of whether or not the current sitting president of the United States attended any parties with a sexual predator where underage girls were present is not ridiculous at all. I think everybody wants to know the answer to that question. Also, by the way, it wasn't exactly a 7-parter. She could have just said no if she knew the answer was no. And it wasn't just her refusal to provide a basic answer. That was certainly part of it. When given the opportunity to honor the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, who were literally right behind her in that hearing room, she refused.
Can I answer
Donald
that,
Trump.
though?
I want to move on to another
Can I
question.
answer your question about protecting?
You answered the question.
You're saying no. I love this.
I want to discuss another man, Donald Trump, who is all over the Epstein files, like former Prince. Here's the video. Like former Prince Andrew, Donald Trump attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. I want to know, were there any underage girls at that party or at any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein?
This is so ridiculous, and that they are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done. There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that. This has been the most transparent presidency. He's the one that asked that those files.
I'm reclaiming my time. I got your answer. You said there's no evidence.
Trump asked
Chairman, please stop the clock.
Stop
the clock.
The legislation.
Time belongs to the gentleman from California.
Okay. I'm going to show you 2 photos of former Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. Under the law Congress passed, you were allowed to redact photos to protect the victims of Epstein's sex trafficking operation. You redacted the photos of this victim's face because you were following the congressional law. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, that we redacted the victim's
Because you were
name?
following the congressional law, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You have now established that please put the photos back up, that we are looking at a sex trafficking victim. Under the Federal Victims Trafficking Protection Act, not only is Jeffrey Epstein guilty, but anyone who patronizes Epstein's sex operation is also guilty of a crime. That's why I find it absolutely despicable that you sought to protect Epstein's clients, like former Prince Andrew. Last July, you closed the case on Epstein's abusers. The July 2025 memo from your Department of Justice stated, quote, "We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties." These two photos, please put the photos back up. These two photos staring you in the face are evidence of a crime and more than enough evidence to predicate an investigation against former Prince Andrew. So I ask you, Attorney General Pam Bondi, why did you shut down this investigation last July, and why have you not prosecuted former Prince Andrew?
I don't believe you asked Merrick Garland these questions when he was Attorney General and set before
I agree with you.
You twice.
I'm reclaiming my time.
Never
I agree with
mentioned
you. I agree with you. During
Were
the
you not here then?
Biden administration, I called for people looking at Epstein files. Merrick Garland dropped the ball, as did Attorney General Bill Barr, as did Alex Acosta, a whole string of failures. But you are in charge. You have the power to change things, to hold these men accountable, and you're doing the opposite. You're protecting them. So I want to move on to another man. I'm going to put up another document from a witness who called the FBI's National Threat Operations Center, because I believe you just lied under oath. There is ample evidence in the Epstein file.
Don't you ever accuse me of a crime.
I believe you just lied under oath, and this is all on videotape. You said there's no evidence of a crime. I'm showing you. Here is a witness statement who called into the FBI's Threat Operations Center. He drove Donald Trump around in a limo. He overheard what Donald Trump said to Jeffrey on his cell phone. He was so angry, he was going to stop a limo and hurt Donald Trump. And he met a girl who said she was raped by Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. She later had her head blown off, and officers at the scene said that could not have been suicide. No one at the Department of Justice interviewed this witness. You need to interview this witness immediately. Epstein should rot in hell, so should the men who patronized his operation. And as we sit here today, there are over 1,000 sex trafficking victims, and you have not held a single man accountable. Shame on you. If you had any decency, you would resign right after this hearing concludes.
The gentleman has expired.
May I respond?
Yeah, I don't know how you respond. No one can.
I did not ask a question,
He
Ms.
doesn't
You're
want
allowed
to talk
to.
about
I did
the
not ask a
horrific
question.
crime in California. He does not want to talk about
I did not ask a
crime
question.
in his
She
state.
can't just
Madam
ad
Attorney
lib
General.
stuff. I did not ask a question.
Meeting will be in order.
Hi guys,
Gentlemen.
after watching the clip, let's discuss. Power does not panic when it's confident, it clarifies, it documents, and it answers. Yes, this week it deflected, and that distinction matters. What unfolded in the House Judiciary hearing was not simply a clash of parties, it was a credibility test. And a credibility, once strained, rarely repairs itself quietly. If we remove party labels, stripped away cable news, noise, and mute social media outrage, what remains is a simple institutional question. When asked about potential evidence, does leadership lean into transparency or lean away from it? Okay, let's start from Representative Ted Lieu asked something structurally simple. It was not an accusation, not a verdict, but a question. Simple question. The question is, were there underage girls present events attended by Donald Trump alongside Jeffrey Epstein? This is not a rhetorical flourish, it's a clarifying inquiry. Attorney General Pam Bondi responded swiftly, calling the question is ridiculous and a distraction. That is the moment the temperature shifted. Because in high stakes hearing, tone tells a story before facts do. If the answer is simple, why does the reaction become so defensive? Okay, now talk about what Pam Bondi responds. Bondi stated there is no evidence that Donald Trump committed a crime. That is a legal assertion. This exchange intensified when Lieu referenced a witness statement contained with Department of Justice materials. Once that, he suggested, had not been fully pursued. To be clear, a witness statement is not proof of guilt and an allegation is not a conviction. However, the institutional pressure point is this. If preliminary evidence exists, shouldn't it at least be investigated? The question is not partition. It is a procedural. If this were a democratic president under similar scrutiny, would Republicans demand investigation? Okay, if we talk about another movement followed when Representative Jerry Nadler asked a narrow question, how many Epstein's co-conspirators have been indicted? The answers acknowledged by the committee was zero. Context matters. Investigations can take time. Files can be complex and legal standards are high. Yet, optics matters as well. The Epstein case involved over 1,000 identified victims. The public see zero additional prosecutions and perception forms. This is not about declaring guilt, it is about institutional follow through. Follow through determines whether promises feel substantive or merely symbolic. Pam Bondi defended the administration by pointing to document releases, noting that millions of pages have been made public. That is factual. However, transparency is not measured only in quantity, it is measured in clarity. 3 million pages have been released, while 3 million pages remain unreleased. Some names were redacted and later unredacted under public pressure. Transparency that evolves under scrutiny can feel reactive, and reactive transparency rarely comes suspicious. The danger is not only what has been revealed, but what voters assumes has not been. I think this becomes larger than one hearing. In modern politics, the fall rarely comes from the initial controversy. It comes from the involving explanation. Watergate was not slowly about the break-in, it was about the cover-up. Email scandals were not only about servers, they were about handling. When administrations appears to protect themselves more aggressively than they protect institutional integrity, voters notice. Not immediately, but gradually. Gradually can be more dangerous than explosive scandal because it lingers. Okay, if we talk about strategically, this unfolds a fragile political cycle. Public trust in federal institutions is already near historic lows. In swing districts, elections are decided by margins under 3 points. Controversies do not need to be criminal to be consequential. They need to create doubt. Doubt affects turnout incrementally, not dramatically. The critical question is whether this hearing expands trust or expands uncertainty. The answer may shape 2026 more than any single policy speech. Okay, generally, if we see through a general human lens, imagine you are not a partisan, but a parent. You hear there are over 1,000 identified trafficking victims connected to a case of Jeffrey Epstein. You see, zero additional indictments. You watch a heated exchange over whether evidence exists. What do you feel? Maybe anger, maybe confusion, or maybe fatigue. Politics shifts when fatigue sets in because fatigue suppresses enthusiasm and suppressed enthusiasm shifts power. The administration frames this as deflection. Democrats frames it as concealment. The strategic risk of Republicans lies elsewhere. If independent voters interpret the response as defensive rather than confident, the damage compounds over months, not overnight. Credibility gaps do not require proof of wrongdoing, they require unanswered questions. Okay, just for a moment, strip away all the personalities and parties. And this is about alignment. Do public statement align with documentation? Do claims of transparency align with disclosure? Do dismissals align with investigative toughness? Power can survive scandal, but in rarely survive sustained doubt. Sustained doubt is what hearings like this can generate. The administration says there is nothing to hide. If that is true, full transparency will stabilize the story. If inconsistencies emerge, pressures will multiply, not from cable panels but from voters. At last, in tight election cycles, trust is currency. Once it depreciates, it rarely rebounds quietly. The real question is whether this is a contained controversy or the beginning of a broader credibility fracture. History suggests that when institutions defend themselves louder than they clarify themselves, the aftershocks tend to last longer than the headlines. Thank you so much.